Josh dons the Superman cape again. Just went oh so wrong for my most hated Jaguars. And why Bills Mafia is moving on.
It doesn't matter who suits up for the 49ers. It can be a cheerleader, the Gatorade guy, the towel washer. All that matters is that the Niners are going on and the defending champs are going home.
Wildcard weekend rolls on. We'll break down Sunday's action, Sunday's early action on Sunday Scaries with Buccs McGee.
Oh, yes. There'll be no defending champion repeat this year at the Super Bowl. The MASH unit known as the San Francisco 49ers handle their business. No one out there can tell me who's on that defense. George Kittle goes down. Does it matter? It doesn't matter. The Niners handle business. Wild card weekend is here, and it's insane.
Normally the quote is the champs are here. Well, now it's the champs are down. The champs are down.
Unbelievable, man. Wow. Like, no sense, man. I have never seen a Super Bowl defending champ just drop the ball like this one, man. Unreal.
Yeah, this is we've talked about it throughout the season as far as the inconsistencies of Philly. And there's a lot of different layers to get into this game. I think the best way to start it off is Saquon Barkley. They finally remembered he was there. He performed. He had a good game. He put up his numbers, got a little banged up towards the end there, but it didn't matter. Seems to be the theme of Sunday.
Like, I don't know what happened here. But the thing is at critical times, the 49er defense showed up and was able to stop him. Like, he got his yards, he got his numbers, but, A.J. Brown, if he's here next year in Philly, I'm impressed. Because he was dropping balls. Him and Sirianni are going at it. The Slim Reaper himself, unfortunately was a no-show. Devontae Smith. Goddard showed up a little bit, but it just seemed like this MASH unit of a defense from the 49ers was just able to stick around enough to disrupt this offense and pull out the win.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of what we kind of thought maybe would happen in the back of our head as far as Philly just having Chiefs-itis, to coin the phrase, where they kind of take the season off, quote unquote, and then they just turn it on for the regular season. Okay, the engines are firing. We're going. Once the playoffs begin, and that just didn't happen. I mean, I don't even say the engines fired. I think it was a straight misfire.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that's what it was. I think they felt they could just turn it on, and here we are. And, they believed the hype. They believed the press clippings. And unfortunately, the Niners wanted it more, and they showed that today. There's some questions in Philly, like what's going on? Like, they just didn't have the fire leading into this game, and I think they felt that they could just turn it on, and they couldn't. It was just a bad showing.
Well, we could dig into that A.J. Brown scenario too. I mean, you'd think like, okay, he's always kind of a mercurial player, and there's always going to be a bickering point when he doesn't get his targets, I should say. But you would think playoff time, A.J. Brown's the money man. They'd figure out to, get the ball in his direction, and it really didn't happen at all. It wasn't even like, okay, the first half didn't get going, but then they got it to him in the second half. They didn't get the ball to A.J. at all.
No, it was almost like after the first half, they were like, okay, we'll sprinkle you in when we need you. Mm-hmm. And he was just window dressing. It's like they felt they just didn't need him and could just do this without him. And then when they finally went to him, he just couldn't perform. I don't know what it is. I think it's ran its course. Everyone can say what they want to say about it. I think he's run his course there, and I would be surprised if they don't try to move him in the offseason.
Yeah, and normally when A.J. Brown's a bit of MIA, Devontae Smith shows up, but like you said, the Slim Reaper, he was slim enough to not be seen. Goddard got going early, but then kind of faded away. I mean, we actually got a sight of Tank Bigsby, which actually always gives me a little bit of joy to know that the Jags could not figure out how to use Tank Bigsby and see him productive in some capacity in Philly. You know, Dotson was getting more targets towards the end of the game than AJ Brown. So, I mean, normally when AJ doesn't get the ball, everyone else does, but that also didn't really happen.
I don't know if that was kind of like to stick it to AJ to say, you know what, we've got other guys that can do it. We don't need you. Or, you know, Hurts felt, you know, especially that one, you know, play, you know, in the end zone there when he threw him deep to try to get to him, thought maybe, you know, this was the better play. I don't know, but we've got to give credit to Robert Saleh and this defense, this no-name defense. Let's be honest. You know, Eric Kendrick is the big name on this defense. Now, mind you, his heyday was when he played for the Chargers, and then he played for Dallas. He's like a 9-10 year vet, but he's been around the block a bit, you know. And they've got some guys who, you know, you say their name, okay, you might know them, but overall they're almost a no-name defense. And Robert Saleh coached these guys up incredibly.
Yeah, especially with in the wake of the injuries, because there were games when the injuries hurt them and their defense got lit up. So I was going into this a little worried that because of that Philly, even with all their issues, would figure out a way to make something happen, and it just didn't happen. Like all the mash unit, the replacements, you know, they all kind of made it work, made it happen.
No replacements. I love it. Yeah, it was just it. I'm really impressed. You know, he got that defense going, and like you said, I figured, okay, the game may have been close in the first half, and then the second half is when the Eagles were going to exert their dominance, and it was going to end up being a 2-score game, you know, led by Saquon or something of that nature. But no, and it kind of makes me wonder, and I'm sure the Jets are watching this saying, wow, did we make a mistake by letting Robert Saleh go? Because this guy coached up this defense like you wouldn't believe, and you got to give the Niners their flowers. They're playing with house money from this point on. They probably won't have Kittle. You know, the early reports, people were saying it was an Achilles injury, so he's probably not coming back. So it's going to be basically Brock Purdy, Jennings, and McCaffrey, and that's it offensively. And whoever they pull.
We did get a Jawan Jennings sighting in this one.
Yeah, a touchdown pass. My man threw a tutty, and I was like, "Ooh, look at this!" But at the end of the day, give the Niners credit. They handled business. They went in hungry, did what they needed to do, and now the Eagles have a whole offseason to sit there and wonder what could have been. Because let's be honest, if the cards had fallen right, they would have had a good shot to repeat, at least get the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. And on the topic of those Niners, now Purdy didn't exactly show out like he did in that Bears game a couple weeks ago, but you know he kind of was in that do just enough to win mode and feed McCaffrey. And McCaffrey, in his infinite abilities, put up almost 120 all-purpose yards, caught a couple of touchdown passes through the air. So very much continuing the thought process that the Niners offense is a one-man band.
Yeah, basically, you know, it all runs through McCaffrey, and that's what it is. So, but they've got to figure out some ways to get the ball to other guys, because if he gets hurt, that's a wrap. There's no bouncing back from that. So, you know, they'll celebrate this one big time, because not a lot of people gave them a shot at this, and now they're gonna, you know, play on. You got to give them credit. I honestly, because for about 3 quarters, I was like, Kyle Shanahan, what are you doing, man? I said, do you not want to coach anymore? Because some of this stuff, I'm like, man, this is rough, bro. I know you got some hurt guys, but come on. But once they had that flea flick, you know, that double reverse, you know, touchdown from Jennings, I'm like, all right, this man's opening up the playbook. He's got no choice. And it worked.
Does this squarely get – I mean, it's hard to look at Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat anyway, just because of the success they've had. But does this kind of make his seat a little bit cooler, or like take a little bit of the pressure off every loss gets magnified 1,000 times from knocking out the champs.
For as many injuries as they've had to deal with, I don't think he was hot seated at all. I think he was fine coming back going into next year. Like literally, like if I had to vote for coach of the year, I would vote for Kyle Shanahan. Like for what he's had to deal with, like you don't have your full, complement of weapons. Injury, like literally every week it seems like somebody else is getting injured. And you had Mac, like legit, you had Mac Jones literally during a crucial stretch of your schedule, basically running the team. And for you to be here today, say yes, we beat the defending champs and we're moving on to the divisional. That guy's seat's good for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
Easy.
Now that does put a bow on the NFC side of the playoff bracket, which means the Niners, as the lowest remaining seed, they will go to Seattle, and the Rams will face Caleb Williams and those cardiac Bears.
Oh boy. Like I said, I give the Niners all the flowers in the world. I don't know if they can survive in Seattle. Like I don't know. I don't think they've got enough firepower. Brock Purdy's got to play perfect ball. He can't have those interceptions like he had this week. So it's good. Like the game plan is going to have to be crazy ball control. But hey, they beat the Eagles, so anything can happen. Anything can happen. I give them that, but it's going to be another tall task. The Rams. It just depends. If Stafford's hand is good, then I think they should be able to. I think they should be able to beat the Bears. But if they play anything like they did this weekend, who knows? Caleb might figure something out and throw for 50. He might complete 55% of his passes and win the game. So the game, it'll be interesting. But if you're asking me today to pick who I think is going to win the games, I'm going to say the Rams and I'm going to say Seattle. I just think right now it's a collision course.
Yeah, and it's funny because after Saturday's show, you were thinking that the Seahawks would have a little bit to worry about if they were to play the Rams, but now that it's but now that Seattle's got San Francisco, your confidence is back in the Seahawks' favor.
A little bit, slightly. I've got to see the Seahawks play too. The Seahawks have sat. They've been able to watch all this. After what the Rams did yesterday, there's questions, but it's one of those things where it just seems like it's destiny that the Rams and the Seahawks are going to go at it one more time. And maybe, the Rams right the wrong, or Seattle, puts the stamp on it and says, yep, we're the NFC's best this year. Well, we've got to get to that point, but right now it's looking that way.
Yeah. And real quick, before we move on to the other game, we do need to talk about who's to blame for the Eagles here. Is it Jalen Hurts? Kind of maybe we were a little fast to anoint him in the upper tier, or is it Nick Sirianni? Is it just this kind of chaotic environment that the Eagles seem to exist in, with no kind of sense of identity week to week, and getting into arguing matches with his top players, whatever the case may be?
I think you kind of go both. Everyone after the Eagles won last year was ready to anoint Jalen Hurts as in that elite tier. There was the question who's the top three quarterbacks, and of course Mahomes cements as one, and then 2 and 3. Some people still put Jalen at 5, and people were outraged. They're like, look what he's done, blah blah blah. And now today is one of those games where your opponent is, like I said, a walking mash unit, limping in. You got to put your foot on the throat. You got to finish the job. And unfortunately, he didn't. So this is gonna reflect on him. But Sirianni as well. Was this team ready to go? You don't have a blow up on national TV with your wide receiver. You just don't do it. It's bad optics, regardless if it's nothing or not. You don't do it. So there's going to be questions about Sirianni and how does he have total control of this team? Were they just, coming in and just thinking they were going to, roll over the Niners? Were they just going to handle it easy? I think Jalen's going to look at this game, see some throws that he missed, and probably hopefully come back stronger and better next year. But yeah, I think, you bring down, Hurts a little bit, he's still, if you got to pick 5 quarterbacks, I still think he's a top 5 quarterback, and Sirianni, he's got to look at his situation and say, what can I do better?
And regardless of even if the player's in the wrong, because the other players see that, and now Smith wonders, could that be him next if he speaks out? Maybe Goddard wonders that if he speaks out, although he's a little older, been a bit more of a veteran player, so they all kind of wonder, like, if I speak out, do we get an issue on the sideline as well?
I don't think so. I think it's how AJ does it, because AJ just comes out and it's emotion. You can tell it's emotion. And I think, if AJ just walks over to him and, it's kind of like eyes down and just says, hey, man, and speaks his piece, no, we're not having this conversation. But when you start flailing your arms, your helmet's all over the place, and you guys are literally this close to each other, there you go. But there's a record of this. So I think they're going to look at it and say, hey, at this point, maybe we move on from him. Look in the draft, pick up a new guy. And like I said, he's got trade value. There were whispers during the trade deadline that he might be going. So I could honestly see them saying, okay, or he could end up being part of a draft day trade. That's how the Eagles got him.
I never would have guessed you would have taken so much joy out of watching the Eagles lose, but could it have been as much joy as I could take out of watching the Jacksonville Jaguars poop their pants in a playoff game?
Wow. I've got to give the Jags some credit. Like, they played hard. I will give them credit. But Josh Allen is Superman. You've got to, there's nothing you can say. The guy just wills this team of almost incomplete parts, because, let's be real, there's no real number one receiver. Brandon Cooks is like excuse me. Brandon Cooks is like the guy. And we all know that he was on the Saints, he was on the Patriots. This guy's floated around, and they somehow figure it out. They did enough to win. Their defense, beat up as well, did enough and pull out the win. Like, Buffalo you can't count Buffalo out. That's what it is. They look like they're mismatched, but they find a way.
Yeah, I mean, Shakir has 12 receptions in this game, but he barely has over 80 yards, so he may have just been a glorified possession receiver. We call the Niners the MASH unit, but the Bills are like the island of misfit toys.
It was surreal. Like, their first drive was 15 plays for 40 yards. It was surreal. It was just I've got to give them credit, man. They found a way to do it. And, Josh Allen took some serious shots today, and McDermott has got to figure out how to keep this guy upright, because if he goes into, the divisional taking those hits, even if they win, they're not going to survive.
No, it's a dead ringer to wonder who would be worse further up Schitt's Creek without a paddle if McCaffrey goes down versus Josh Allen going down.
Exactly. If the Niners were to lose, Brock Purdy, I kind of trust Mac Jones. I won't lie. Yeah. Mac Jones has shown something. I don't know if Mitch Trubisky's leading Buffalo to a Super Bowl. No disrespect to Mitch at all, but let's be honest. But Buffalo just they scrounged, they stuck around, and they were able to, they're able to win. Jacksonville, there were times in this game where that defense was dominant, and J-Law looked good. In Trevor Lawrence, T-Law looked good. It was crazy. I think they shore some things up. They could be a major player in the AFC. It just today was just not their time.
Yeah, and I did think Jacksonville's defense actually, for the most part, performed pretty decent in this, in spite of the fact that Josh kind of went off. But I think it wasn't enough when Trevor Lawrence is extremely below average He overthrew guys. He had a very bad interception early on. You kind of give him a little bit of a pass on the final drive, based on the fact that was tipped up by the defender. But he wasn't very accurate. Brian Thomas got going early, shocker, but never saw him again for the rest of the game. So once the Bills kind of figured out how to play ETN, things got a lot harder for Trevor Lawrence, and this is a very bad look for a quarterback we thought had turned the corner.
I think because they wanted the offense to roll through the running back in the passing game, because that's what Liam Cohen did in Tampa. Like, that's where our success was. Throw to your, if you've got a great pass catching, running back and stuff, everything else opens up. So once they were able to key in on that, we know that, Brian Thomas has had issues, injuries and such this year. They do get, some pieces in the trade deadline, and I don't know. Like you said, I think Trevor was just off today. And, to flip that, Buffalo, they play great man defense. They really do. Like, we joke about them, like, we don't know who the hell's on their defense. It's like it's a mess. Like, they're always missing somebody, but they always play well. Like, when Jordan Poyer went out, I was like, oh, this is it. I go, T-Law's about to light it up. But no, a couple, rough patches with the replacement guy. I think his last name was Hancock. But after that, they figure it out. These guys they know their roles. They know what they've got to do. And they just play well enough to keep, the offense in the game. And I think that's all they ask their defense to do. Like, just hold it down, and then we'll let Josh do his thing. And that's exactly what happened today.
Yeah, and that's kind of our moment to kind of glorify Josh Allen in yet another Superman performance, because he does it. He's unstoppable on the ground. Yes.
I gotta give him. You gotta give him his credit. Early in his career, I was like, "Oh, Josh Allen, whatever, blah blah blah." But honestly, man, I like the guy. I think he just plays hard and he does his thing.
Tell DC if they really want to save their cinematic universe, to get Josh's wife to pull some strings on the inside of Hollywood and get Josh cast as the next Clark Kent.
Exactly. They've got multiverses in the DC universe. He could, hey, in the last Superman movie, they had Nicolas Cage as Superman in one of those little multiverses. I'm sure you could have Josh Allen flying around Buffalo. It'll work.
Yeah. And this one, and like you said, you noted it with McDermott, he's got to figure out a way to protect Josh Allen more, because it kind of makes Josh's performance all the more impressive. The fact that he took an absolute beating in this one. He got whacked to the knee. He had guys land on his head. His hands getting smacked on the back of linemen's helmets. I mean, Josh Allen's walking out of there like he feels like part of the MASH unit.
I think Josh understands that the window is limited. Like, let's be honest, the way especially the way the AFC has turned this year, the Chiefs taking some steps back, but now
you're smiling, and I thought you were going to bring up the Ravens.
I didn't get to them yet. The Ravens are a hot mess, but Denver has arrived. The Chargers are kind of figuring it out. New England, kind of, at least for this year, New England has returned. Mm-hmm. So, now, there were the last couple of years, Buffalo was like the team, but unfortunately, they were like the Knicks when the Bulls were at their highest power, couldn't get over the hump. Now Buffalo sits here and says, okay, well, do we even have a shot now? Because now there's 3 or 4 teams that you could say are better than they are. So Josh is like, if I'm going to do it, I got to do it now, because I don't know when I'm going to get back here.
That's an insane amount of pressure to think that this is his best chance to do it with no Mahomes, no Burrow, no Lamar, and a bunch of other unproven guys in the AFC playoffs. That's an insane amount of pressure for Josh to think this is his only bet chance or his best chance, considering the fact that, as we've repeatedly gone over, he has nothing much to work with. It's a half-empty toolbox.
No, if you look at the AFC quarterbacks right now that are in the playoffs, he's the best one. I don't know if there's anybody else who would argue. I think without a doubt, he's the best one remaining, right? Would you
Yep.
say?
I would not dispute that one bit.
Right. But those other teams that are out there for the most part may have better defenses. Maybe they've got more. They've got healthier defenses. More,
That's a fact.
Brand, guys with brand names. So it's Josh and this bunch of misfit toys. Disrespect, but that's what you kind of look at it as. And he's dragging them along, and he's hoping that maybe some teams lose. Like tonight, he's probably hoping, maybe New England stumbles. And then tomorrow, he's hoping maybe the Steelers can pull off a miracle. Because let's be real, if that's the case, it makes it a little easier for him. Because I don't know if Buffalo can withstand the Texans' defense. New England's defense is good. They've got guys on there, and it's a scary good team. So he's probably now sitting there saying, okay, if this team can fall, this team can fall, I've got to. There's no such thing as an easier way, but to him, a more pliable way to get through.
And on that note, are the Bills playing with fire? This is like we said, this is a very limited window. This might be their best chance to do it, but given the sum of the parts, are they kind of playing with a ticking time bomb, so to speak, as far as their actually ability to get it done?
I think they're playing like this is their last shot, and that for some reason next year is a I don't want to say a rebuild, but things are going to change. They're going to have to get a true number one. Keon Coleman is not the guy. Brandon Cook, and I feel bad because I think Keon Coleman has a great personality. Seems like a good kid, but he just hasn't stepped up and become that guy. Brandon Cooks, aka the Archer, I love that guy. I've always liked Brandon Cooks. Especially when he scores his touchdown and he does the whole whoosh, I love him. He's a great complimentary piece. He's not the guy. So he's going to need a real number one guy. The defense, I think they may have to get a little younger, but they're going to need some pieces. So I think Josh is like, you know what? I'm just going to do whatever I can. And if I have to leave my body parts out there, then so be it. But at this point, if you look, like I said, if you look at the AFC, it might work. It really might work. Tonight is going to start to tell the tale of how Buffalo goes about this. If New England loses, no one trusts the Chargers. Me and you don't trust the Chargers as far as we can throw them. No. But if if somehow New England stumbles and the Chargers pull this out, it's like, okay, well, is this going to be their highlight? Could be. Then tomorrow night, how in the heck does Pittsburgh survive? I don't know how Will Anderson Jr. doesn't put a helmet in Aaron Rodgers' chest and just send him off to the retirement home. I don't know. But if Aaron Rodgers can figure it out, then it's like, okay, you look at these teams and say, well, Buffalo probably matches up better with those two than they do with the powerhouses. The only real threat at that point is probably Denver. Then we'll see what happens. So I think Buffalo is sitting there saying, you know what? We're just going to roll with what we got. And if Josh wants to put his head down and take the lumps, lose an ankle, whatever, if he can still stand up and throw the ball, then we're going to ride with that.
Well, and to tie those 2 points together, Buffalo is going to be extremely big Los Angeles Chargers fans. I almost said San Diego. I can't get it out of my head still. Extremely big Chargers fans in this Sunday night matchup, because not only are they the only team that Buffalo has home field advantage over, but the Chargers winning saves the Bills a trip to Denver.
Yep. So Josh is putting on his Herbie jersey and he's like, let's go Bolts.
Let's go Bolts.
But I will tell you that if the Bolts pull this off tonight, the football gods might be smiling down on Buffalo. If Buffalo somehow gets one more game at the old stadium, because they're moving into their new place next year, that place is going to be, I wouldn't want to play there.
Yeah, West Coast home digs.
So Buffalo, they're big Chargers fans, and if it happens tonight, then maybe it is a magical ride for them. Maybe at least they make it. Not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but at least they get their chance.
Programming note, we will be live Monday to discuss the aftermath of Patriots Chargers, right as we also delve into what's going on with the Texans and Steelers. See if Aaron Rodgers has one final streak of a ride left in him. Buccs McGee, sir, please take us off air with your final thoughts on Wild Card Sunday.
I'm telling you, man, this was some good football. Regardless of who you like, who you don't like, this was some great football. Hopefully the Patriots and the Chargers, live up to the hype, because the first two games have been incredible. Buffalo, you do your thing. Go Buffalo. I'm impressed. Eagles fans, you guys have got a mess to clean up, and the first order of business is AJ Brown. Is he your guy? If not, hey, I'm sure Tom Brady and the Raiders would love him. They're besties. But hey, let's see what happens tonight. Wild card weekend. Gotta love it.